If you like a solid revenge film with touches of Tarantino and Lynch, then the duo of Zoe Kravitz and Channing Tatum might have served up something just for you. Partying on a tropical island will never be the same as a solid cast and crew deliver the goods in the 2024 thriller Blink Twice.
Welcome to Bedlam Movie Night, the podcast where we dissect, deconstruct, and exhume films from the depths of horror, action, sci fi, and beyond. I'm Ben Marlowe, joined by John Anderson, and tonight we're jetting off to paradise. Cocktails, influencers, and maybe just a dash of human trafficking, perhaps?
Definitely a lot of human trafficking. I feel like it's 5 women they human trafficked in this film.
To say the least.
Yeah,
But yeah, a place where, riddled with red flags, doused in a nice green background.
red flags and red rabbits. Yep,
Well,
yep.
let's dive on in. I'm excited for this one. I have some hot takes. Also, speaking of hot takes, spoiler warning. Bedlam style, we tend to give spoilers for movies
We
when
ruin
you least
everything.
expect it.
Let's
Yeah.
just put it like that.
So just be on your toes, for Forrest Gump or
like
whatever.
films that you haven't seen. The film that we're covering. It just on and on. We're gonna ruin everything.
But we promise a good time.
Yeah, I liked the use of the first scene. You know how I am, where the first opening scene of a film has got to be special or at least related to some element of the movie. It should set the tone, so to speak, or give you like an
Hmm.
idea of what's to come. And I didn't, realize it until further into the movie, but the opening scene in this one definitely has a little Easter egg in it.
Well, what I like about it is, after watching it, like when you get through it, it's like that's the only memory she has is that
Mm-hmm.
little lizard face
Yep.
of, perhaps the multiple times she's gone, but at least once before. That's just the only thing that got through, which is a cool little launching point for sure.
Well, what I liked about the Tarantino and David Lynch touches that I felt like this movie had was number one, they playing around with the nonlinear storyline where throughout the movie you kind of have these like touches of moments that you're not quite sure where they fit into the storyline of these women
Mm-hmm.
being on the island and these dudes, whatever, being their weird selves. But they kind of like sprinkle this stuff in through the movie. And it's not until later on that you're able to put it together and be like, oh, that's why they showed us that scene. And that's why they showed
Right,
us this
right.
scene. So, very like reminiscent of Pulp Fiction and how they play with the
Mm-hmm.
timeline. Also, David Lynch came to mind because I found myself doing a lot of detective work throughout this movie, trying to figure out what exactly was going on. Like, is it a cult thing?
A little bit of like a whodunit, like White Lotus vibe to it. Yeah.
Totally. It's like, when is the egg going to crack and what exactly are we dealing with here? And once the character of Frida sort of starts to go into parts of the island that she's not supposed to be into, and we start to see more behind the veil,
Yeah.
we start a whole detective story.
One of my favorite things about how you were kind of commenting on the like jumping around and how you
Hmm.
didn't know is actually one of my takes that I think is the most successful thing that Zoe Kravitz does in this film is there's that constant scene where they're in white dresses and they're running,
Yeah,
and it always looks like they're having fun.
right.
And then by the end, you realize what's happening is it's them running from them, and then you witness them forget everything, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Wait, why are we running?"
And they
And it
have
just
fun
has a
again.
whole
Yeah,
nother vibe. I thought that was super successful.
yeah,
But yeah, let's like before like we break into all that because there's some rich stuff here on a
definitely.
lot of different levels. But like, what'd you kind of just general take on the movie?
I really liked it. I saw every film, like horror film, in theaters last year, and this one jumped out to me as the most original just because the idea is actually terrifying. Like being somewhere secluded and totally like out of control, like your means of communication are taken away from you.
And your abilities to think and keep your wits about you.
Yeah, you're just like bombarded with all this stuff and sort of, going along for the ride until you realize, like, oh, I don't want to be on this ride anymore. How did I get here? That is something that's very real and has happened to a lot of people. So just in that reality context, I was like, that's a terrifying premise, and they pulled it off with a lot of creativity.
So yeah, that's thing here. I will say it's amazing how far really good production and kind of like a fun cast goes. Because my take on this movie is the complete opposite. I saw all those horror movies as well, and I thought this one was definitely the one that looked the best
Hmm.
and had like the easiest like A to Z. But I kind of just found this as like the most like kind of like low hanging woke Hollywood bullshit, honestly.
Huh.
And we can definitely get into why. And I don't get me wrong, I think this movie is good and it's really well done. And I know ish, I don't want to say I know what she's doing, but I appreciate where Zoe's coming from. For instance, you were speaking of Tarantino. One of the big things I noticed is that kind of just like I couldn't help correlate was that song paid the cost to be the boss.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
so
the
it
ending.
opens with
Yeah.
her. So we have our main character, and she's entering her job, and that's also from Death Proof, and
Mm,
it's like kind of where follows the ladies as they enter the bar.
right.
And in this movie in particular, it plays in the beginning when she's the waitress, and it plays at the end when she's the boss, and they play the
Interesting.
same song.
Yeah.
And the correlation, I think, which is I would, is to give Zoe some flowers, is she's kind of like playing even on Tarantino because in Death Proof, they played as these women who are like super, super confident, but they end up being these like really, really brutal victims.
Hmm.
And then in this one, she, ends up kind of like coming in as the victim, quote unquote, but
Right.
ends up kind of being the
There's a
boss
role reversal
and,
there at the end.
paid the cost to be the boss, quite literal. But that is my ultimate take on this was I actually like enjoyed it the first time because the cadence is so quick and so sharply cut, and I think that was almost like it was almost like a movie version of a TikTok, be
Hmm.
it whether they meant to cut it like that.
Right.
And the second time, I was like, oh wait, there's actually like nothing going on here. Essentially,
Hmm.
everything is so obvious. Oh, are you on a bad island? Oh, you are on a bad island. Oh, is he a bad guy? Yeah, he's a bad guy. I mean, the only twist is really the end.
I disagree. I
No, I'm excited. We'll be able
no,
to
no,
break
yeah,
into it.
it's interesting because I know you came around to that opinion where at first I think you
Mm-hmm.
were a little bit like, oh yeah, hell yeah, this is
Because
where it's
it
at.
looks good and it's really and it's
Yeah,
fun. It's a fun movie.
right.
No, yeah. So I am looking forward to discussing a movie that like we both kind of like strongly disagree on, especially with such a strong social context.
Well, let's just get into that before we start cutting up some scenes.
Yeah, well, actually, so I mean, so not only do I think this movie is kind of like basic, quote unquote, but I just yeah, yeah. I mean, I just don't know
Yeah,
quite how to like express it
you don't
otherwise.
like it. I get it.
Yeah, yeah. But I also like think there's like something to be said about the film being, taking the social stance that it's taking while coming from a director who is definitely, with possibly one of the more privileged nepo babies there ever was and who is kind of coming off the coattails of a very hot and spicy cancellation
Mm,
where she possibly groomed Will Smith's kid when he was under 18. And that's kind of why she got into some heat for the Batman and everything like that. And so,
mm,
like, now she's got coming off of that. And then on top of that, she's got this boyfriend who she's making the star of it. And this boyfriend has a history of kind of coming up from the way of your average starlet, where he was a male stripper and then kind of has just been sexualized also at a kind of too young age
mm.
to where he is now. So now we have this Nepo baby making a social critique with her arm candy, who comes from the world that she's kind of like addressing, but refuses to address that it's like on the other foot. And at the same time, like giving a very sloppy, like hollow critique to the whole thing. And if I want to even just go for the gut, the way she represents the help is like the worst thing. Like they look like, oh my god, the foreigner doesn't speak my language. I gotta run away and stuff like that. So like, there's just like, she just missing it with this like gross irony umbrella over it. And that's the best, softest, toe touching way we can do that. Yeah.
Or it's just entertainment
Yeah, but
made by
it wouldn't be
entertainers.
though. It wouldn't be if she didn't run around on the press tour
I
with her
did
boy doing her thing.
I did think that it was interesting slash telling, whatever adjective you want to use, that her and Channing Tatum were together for like a year and a half, 2 years. This movie sort of had its inception and its creation, and then they broke up pretty much after, well, long after its premiere.
Yeah, yeah.
The relationship ended. So I would be
Like
curious to be a fly on the
let's
wall.
just play, just make pretend. There was a Nepo male baby who was trying to critique the social thing, and meanwhile was dating, you know, the hot starlet who happened to be a stripper and was sexualized her whole life. Made her parade around the press tour, say everything that he wanted, and then they broke up. And they were
Months after the
also,
movie premiered.
and meanwhile, this director was on the tails of quote unquote grooming allegations. I
Yeah,
mean,
I did never understand the grooming allegations. I know she made a comment about their age difference and that she like, oh, like if you were my age, it was definitely like not
no, I mean, I'm
okay.
sure it's completely overblown, to be
Right.
fair. I mean, it's like all, like the majority, not,
She
or
was
maybe
20
just like half of
she
it,
was
but yeah.
24, he was 14, and she was like, "Oh wow, I can't believe you're 14. Like we would definitely hang out if you were." It was like, yes,
Yeah.
obviously not great, but I never understood, like, I don't know. It
No,
was
I'm just like,
yeah.
I just want to softly point out, like, I appreciate that she's obviously a film buff and everything like that, and she, like, if
She
anyone,
draws on her like influences really well.
hard.
Like
Yeah,
I'm
and
all
well though.
about it.
And you
All
know, but
about
you
it.
have to wonder how much of that is just like being famous and having that production. But I do
Mm,
obviously the director has a voice and she really does have a voice and I can see it struggling to
yeah.
get there. However, there's just like so much unaddressed irony in the entire context of this movie existing that drives me nuts. And I gave it a shot. I watched it like 5 times, and I have a lot of fun facts and a lot of cool things that we can get into about this because she is a film buff for sure.
Well, let's get into those fun facts then.
So yeah, we open up with that. So I'll just like one of the fun things I kind of noticed right out of the gates is so, you know, she's doing the thing again. This I'm gonna give a little salt, but oh my fucking god, if we see another goddamn movie where the dumb idiot tells her to smile, I mean, how many movies have
Well,
we
that's
seen
what
that in?
we just covered that in the substance.
It's in The Substance.
Yeah.
It's in. I mean, it's in every horror movie we've seen. It's in
Which I think is great because like who wants to be told what to do with their body, let alone their face?
No,
Like
I
at
get it.
any
It's
point
just
in
become
time. Like
like
if it's I don't mind the trope. I think that's like using it to this effect in horror movies and psychological thrillers, which
and
I
it
think
makes
is
the
like
point. This guy's
really
a
good.
douchebag. And I
Exactly.
will
This
say,
guy, this
yeah.
character that's saying it is a monster,
And
actually a
also,
monster.
the other argument, to play my own devil's advocate would be, oh, you have to deal with it in movies. I deal with it every fucking block, every fucking street. So
Sure.
that just to call myself out. But so another fun thing that happens after that I kind of notices. So like, she does the thing. So cool thought I thought here is like, so Channing Tatum, he's not sliding into her DMs. He's a tech bro. He's in her algorithm. He's like fucking with her, making sure he comes and gets
Mm.
on her mind and shit. And he's doing that just to like round up these women to come to these things. And then another cool point is when they get in the dresses afterwards.
Right.
Did you notice one's in a blue dress, one's in a red, reference to the Matrix?
Ah.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Because one of them snaps out of it. The one in the blue dress
Yeah. And
wakes up,
what's
so to
her name
speak.
again?
Aliyah Shawkat. Forgive me for any mispronunciations on that name, though.
Right. I have a fun story with them actually. When we worked at L&E Oyster Bar, a
Mm-hmm.
little Bedlam history. That's where we met at that restaurant in Silver Lake. They were there, and yeah, I approached them like with a pen and paper because I'm like a, an old school fan like that, and I rarely see celebs like that. But the thing I asked them about was this thing on YouTube they have where it's called Artist Talk.
Not Arrested Development. You
I know
approach them about a
exactly.
whole
Yeah,
different thing.
exactly. And
Yeah, they
they
probably
were
love
very
that.
happy about that. They're
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, nobody ever asked me about that." And their partner was just pissed I was there, but
Right.
they gave me a good shout out right
That's
there.
nice.
Yeah.
I had never put together the red dress, blue dress pairing, and that's
Mm-hmm.
a really interesting take because yeah, in the film, Frida continues to go for the ride on the Matrix, so to speak, where Jess is the
Yeah,
first one
exactly.
to wake up and snap out of it when she's bitten by the snake, which actually, I looked it up. The snake they used in the film when they, you see it in the grass, it's a boa constrictor, which is ironically like a non-venomous snake.
Really, that's a boa? I mean, it
Yeah,
just looks good from the neck up.
yeah,
So
totally.
that's
I
pretty
mean,
much why they picked it. Yeah.
yeah, it looked dangerous, but
But yeah,
it
there's when they're all taking group photos, they're all in red, and she's the only one in blue. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. So there's a lot of kind of fun references that are again, you can just tell Zoe's a big movie fan, and like throughout the whole thing, there's all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah.
I mean, going back to the Tarantino stuff, he probably would have been the only person ballsy enough to call this film Pussy Island had he made it. And originally that was going to be Zoe's name for the film, but obviously they scrapped it for a number of reasons. But I feel
Yeah.
like Tarantino, like, had he made this, he'd be like, yeah, fuck it. I'm going to call it whatever I want.
Well, apparently that's like the first thing she wrote down when she thought of it. But yeah, in an interview, she said they like tested it amongst audiences.
Not a great test.
Well,
No,
apparently the ladies were the ones who voted against it
sure.
more than that. But yeah, Zoe's like, yeah, the patriarchy shut it down. But ironically, turns out, and then just counters her point. But again,
It
Zoe.
makes me think, too, of the James Bond film Octopussy, which was like
Oh my god.
pretty ballsy. But again, James Bond, like, he was an alcoholic
It was also like,
womanizer.
yeah,
It
the
makes
60s
sense.
where, they roll that up to like a worse version of Harvey Weinstein. And he's like,
It's like, it's
yeah.
fine because it's James Bond.
But another one, so yeah, while we're all just, because a lot of the fun in the beginning is like, you learn a lot about the main character, and
Right.
it happens fast. And I also think that's pretty much Zoe being a big movie fan. But it's like there's character right there in that first 10 minutes, and it's all like fast. But did you
Right.
notice that she's hiding and stealing money from her roommate, and she can't even afford toilet paper? And,
Oh,
like,
in the beginning, in the opening scenes when you
yeah,
see them struggling, yeah, she like took the money that was meant to be for their rent and
and the lighter, of course, she
yeah,
wouldn't even have a lighter. And then, did you also notice after she sees Channing Tatum's algorithm appear for the first time, she blinks twice?
I did not notice that.
Mm-hmm.
I did notice though in her feed as she's going through the different like Instagram videos, there's a quick snippet of a dude with a cow in the kitchen, and that's a famous one called Bruce the Cow. If you haven't seen it, check out Bruce the Cow.
Mm-hmm.
His owner will try to do these cooking videos where he's like, I'm going to cook an apple pie, but he's got this massive dairy cow in
Oh,
the
I've seen
kitchen
those.
with him who's just like eating and destroying everything around him. It's actually an
I feel like you
awesome
sent
internet
that to
thing.
me and said that's my dog.
Yeah, so
There's also in that feed a very brief workout of a video of Lenny Kravitz working out.
yeah,
And also, I don't know if you watched MTV Cribs, but there's one with Lenny Kravitz,
great.
and let me tell you,
He's got an island or
it
something.
looks exactly like this fucking
I
island.
have read some of those conspiracy theories that, this is all a big like wink wink to the underbelly of
If
Hollywood, this
only,
and that.
if only Zoe was that. If only. I would
Honestly,
love that if Zoe was capable
if
of
we
it.
had, a bottle of snake venom to take some shots to, then I might get into that territory, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
I'm not buying it.
Right.
Ultimately, yeah, you could say it's connected to this and that, but it's a movie, it's entertainment, it's a
Yeah.
great story with actual like real social relevance and that's what I think should be paid attention to. Not is Zoe Kravitz referencing something about her upbringing, this and that. I don't know.
I
That's
hear
a
you.
little
Well,
too
that's
far
why there's
fetched for
like,
me.
but again, she casts these people, and it's like rich with that
Well,
context.
what I thought was great
But
was casting Haley Joel Osment as the Tom. Like, he's kind of this miserable guy who's like been divorced, it seems like. But, I knew him, of course, as being this innocent child from the
yeah, and then
Spielberg movie. And now in this one, he's just this creepy rapist guy. It's great when I see an actor get out of their typecast or what you're familiar seeing them as. And he does that really well.
he's doing a good job these days. Him as JD Vance is rich. Have you
Great.
seen him do that?
I have not.
Good shit.
Yeah. After this movie, though, like, yeah, of course he'd
I
be
like
great
that
at
he's
it.
just eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I mean, it's like a pretty like A to B movie. I mean, like, so the big moment like that's after they get to the island is, Arrested Development gets bit by the fucking viper. It's like
Well,
the thing.
that's really when we, as the audience, enter the dungeon with Frida. So far, like, up until that moment in the movie, like, I knew as an audience member something was not right, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I was like, is this a cult? Is there a brainwashing thing? Like, what exactly are we dealing with here? And then Frida crosses that line as she starts to question stuff, and like suddenly she can't
Hmm.
find Jess. Like, that's the first moment of like, oh yeah, we haven't seen that character for a minute, and she starts to ask people around her about Jess,
And you can tell she's barely holding on to it too.
and
That
we
actually
start
gives.
to just kind of slip into that territory of like, okay,
Whoa, what's going on?
now we the audience are not only we're not just watching the movie, we're like now involved in the questions that the protagonist is asking.
Well, it's because yeah, so she's looking for Jess, and then she meets the help, quote unquote, and she starts screaming red rum and gives her a hit of the viper thing.
She screams "Red Rabbit" at her over
Oh
and over
yeah,
again,
see,
which
there's a
is a
Freudian slip.
direct,
Yeah,
which is a
it might
direct
as well have been
throw.
red rum.
I
Yeah,
mean, it was exactly even the shot, the camera frame,
that's
like had
hilarious.
her like, and it was scaling back as she's like walking towards her, screaming "Red Rabbit." But yeah,
You know
it
what,
was
though
a
I
total
realized?
throwback to
I know
that.
I literally just said red rum by accident. It's like that
It's that
fucking obvious. Yeah.
obvious.
But you know what I put together the second time when watching that? You know in the beginning when she pulls out that gross lip gloss and
Right?
shit
She's
like
like,
that?
you
She
know,
says
better luck next
she says
time.
better luck next time, bitch.
Yeah,
That was her lip gloss.
I know.
It had
Yep,
her same fucking size and everything.
yep,
I
yep.
mean, Jesus Christ. But yeah, so she's like off and running. This is another thing. So this was a successful part of what Zoe was doing. I love it when her and Sarah, and by the way, Sarah, she like carries the third act.
100%.
But when they're like quote unquote coming up on the venom and they're like at the pool and they're like trying to act normal, but acting normal is acting fucked up, but
Yeah,
they're acting exactly how like you would act like if you were like on shrooms or acid and you're like just act, oh ha ha ha, and like everyone like coming up and trying to like take pictures of you and be normal is freaking you out.
yeah.
But the like irony was, and the way that was shot was perfect. That was like
Hmm.
perfect. I will give big cherry to that
Well,
scene.
they have those two characters, Frida and Sarah. They have that turning point in the film. Like while like we've stepped a few more paces deeper into the dungeon, and we see both of these characters sort of start to put together their reality, and they have this moment where Sarah's like, yeah, like I think I'm having a good time, but not, and it's
It's
like
a brilliant
awesome.
line. Yeah.
And they both kind of they're like, oh no, we got on this plane with these strange men, and she's like, no, I thought you knew so and so, and then she goes, I thought you knew so and then there's a pause, and they both go, what the fuck were we thinking? Like,
Right. How did
really
she
fucking
start to
great.
get aware?
I think she just felt that there
Oh
was
wait, that's what it
something.
was. I love this. This was a great. It's almost like a gag, where she's like, "Yeah, they told me I fell out of a tree, but I fucking won.
Right, because
I would never fall out of a
she
tree."
had a bump or bruise
Yeah,
or
and she's like,
something.
"I would
Yeah.
never." Like, there's successful moments. I just wish, like, Zoe could kind of just pull out of like the I have to make a contemporary thing and just like appreciate her artistry and her appreciation from filmmaking, and I bet it would be badass.
That's the great part about seeing somebody get started early on in their career doing this, because it's like,
Yeah.
I wish this, wish that. We don't know, maybe the second or third one or fourth or
We'll
fifth are
see.
going to be the thing.
I don't have high hopes to be honest with you, but
I
I
know
mean,
you.
I mean, again though, like I do love the like that Tarantino music thing, and I can tell we watch the same movies. There's one part where she plays young Heart, and that's like I think
Right.
to a reference to Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet, where they're about to go into the masquerade, and she plays it here right when they're first dancing, and they're about to kind of right before her friend gets bit by the viper, and so
Right.
it's kind of like he enters this
Hmm.
like, Romeo enters the like crazy world, and they're being brought to this reality, and it's got the Garden of Eden thing, So I appreciate that about her. Yeah.
Speaking of great use of music, when I was in the theater watching this and they started playing Shaka Khan, Ain't Nobody, I almost like got up and started dancing. That's one of my all-time favorite hits.
Which one is that one?
That's after Frida and Sarah sort of wake up and they realize that the snake venom is the catalyst, and so they give it to the other girls, and they're just waiting for the other two girls to snap out of it as well. And they're at dinner and they're trying to act normal and it's super awkward, and so they're like, how do we throw a kink in this chain?
Oh, and that's when they
And they
dance on the
play.
table. Yeah.
They get up and start dancing on the dinner table, and this awesome song by Shaka
It's so
Khan
funny.
starts
Like I
playing.
noticed every other song except for that one because I think I was kind
Dude,
of like
it's
on the
by
edge of
far
my seat.
the best song used in the film. It's amazing.
I mean, the other ones. I mean, there's a Beyonce drop, and
Yeah.
the Beyonce drop is like just 5 seconds when they're marching to go get vengeance, and it's
Yeah.
just it's a perfect. I was like waiting for them to kick in the door and like the bass to drop.
Yeah.
I mean, again, the music is great, and yeah, I mean, she gets her flowers.
That's
Yeah,
also
yeah.
like that's a nod to Tarantino. Like Tarantino's really good at,
Yeah.
using pop songs and
Well, what I like is she flipped the Tarantino thing, like how I
Right.
said she did with "You're the Boss." However, like I mean, we can even just get there right now. I mean, that's everything is basic about this movie except for the end, where it's like now she's the boss bitch, like she
Right.
took over his thing, and she's got the flowers instead of the red rabbits on her thing, and she's
Right.
making him eat meat though he's a vegetarian, so she's like the abusive one, and like that's what like pissed me off. I was like, this is all just to be like a woman tech bro. Like, what are we doing here? Like, like what is the point of this? And like like it really. I know that's what a good twist would do, is be like, what is the point of this? But this one genuinely, because there was like no point to begin with,
Hmm.
it was a double slap in the face a little bit. Like
I didn't read it as that at all. Before we get into that stuff, though, I do want to just like give a hats off to the casting of Christian Slater in the film.
Ash Slater's
Great.
main
He's
boy, yeah.
always good at being like the asshole, even when he's like the good guy. But of course, he wasn't great here. And also Gina Davis as Stacy,
Mm-hmm.
Channing Tatum's assistant in the film. She actually, like in an interview, was like, she had commented on the character and how, like, she's sort of like clumsy and steps over herself and doesn't like quite form sentences great, and just this is kind of like this
Right.
goofy character. We find out later why, but Gina Davis comments on like how much fun she had getting
I
to play
think
this
her
character.
character had like the most like rich
Yeah.
things, and they never explored it. Like the
Yeah.
enabler, but like also the victim. I mean, that is so rich.
Very
And they gave
complicated.
her nothing.
Very complicated.
And then as far as Schlater, no joke, I thought he was dead.
Damn.
I know. I think I get him confused with Paxton.
Yeah.
Bill Paxton,
Okay.
a little bit. And Paxton's deceased, correct?
Paxton did pass away, R.I.P.
Yeah, so I think that's where I get a little jump in the brain there, yeah.
Well, like what you were touching on earlier, the ending wraps up with some really brutal kill scenes
Mm-hmm.
as the other two women on the island sort of wake up and realize that they've been raped and abused this whole time that they've spent with these people. And they're no bullshit. Like Frida and Sarah were like,
Yeah, right.
very like, we have to wake them up. How are we going to do this? We have to act
I
normal.
like how they're like,
And
oh, when they
these
come up, or
they're like-
I like how they say it's like a drug, or like when they come up on the venom, they're gonna go crazy.
They're
And
gonna lose it.
And the irony is like they're not coming up on anything; they're just remembering reality.
Exactly,
Yeah, and
exactly.
that's like the powerful part of this movie.
Yeah, so they, I was really fun to see.
That was the best
All
part.
these dudes
because
get
we got
killed,
we got our rape revenge
Yeah.
movie. I will say like I was all about Sarah, but when the stoner girl goes ham,
Yeah.
I was like, you're the coolest, and then she dies, and I was heartbroken. By
Yeah,
that.
I really didn't want any of them to
No,
die
I
like
didn't want
that.
any of them to die, but I mean, those two, they were just so low played. It was
Yeah.
but again, it was obvious they were going to die. And everything was
course,
obvious.
of course.
Every single thing was obvious, other than like the plot points.
So to a point you brought up earlier with Frida, like, is she just now turning out to be the bad guy where, she's the abuser making Channing Tatum eat meat when he's a vegetarian, which, I don't know, after everything he's done, he kind of has it coming. Let her have at it, right?
Of course. No,
He
of
abused
course
her not once, but twice on the island.
Maybe, at least, yeah.
That we know of in the film. So kind of to that point, my question for the film was Sarah really out on the lawn with Frida after Frida has drugged Slater King out of the burning building, and she's sitting there waiting for, watching the building burn, and Sarah talks to her for a minute? Or was that a figment of her imagination? Because we only see her pull Channing Tatum out. As far as we know, Sarah's still burning in the building, and she's just left her there because she only had time to drag out one person, and she's dragging out Slater King because she knows like now she can control him with his own drug and take control of his business and wealth essentially. So that's my question, was like, was Sarah, did she survive, or did Frida leave her there to die?
I don't even think that was slightly hinted at, to be honest. I think they had their moment where they're like, we just kicked ass, and then she's like, I have something else to do.
Well,
And then it cut
and
to her doing that. It just implied that, like, there was no maliciousness between them. And
that
there's,
there doesn't
yeah.
have to be. There doesn't have to be. My point is that in any film, for me, it's kind of a rule of thumb. When there's an isolated moment with another character, you have to question whether or not that character is real. We saw it in Smile 2,
Yeah, but Zoe
up and
Kravitz
down.
is not capable of that. And
We
there's
don't
nothing,
know.
there's not even a whiff of like surrealism to this other than like when they're drugged. No,
Well,
that's like, I strongly contest that.
I'll
That,
agree
yeah,
to
yeah.
disagree.
Agree to disagree strongly. But like, no, that they were like sister, hats off. And then she's like, what are you going to do? Basically, she's like, I got one more thing to do.
So you think
Yeah.
Frida isn't bad and she's good?
No, Frida's an evil ass bitch.
So she left her friend to die.
No, Sarah, she's not that evil. No, she's still like taking vengeance on the right people.
So now I
the
gotta
dudes.
now I have to understand your evil meter for
Yeah,
how.
my evil.
Yeah.
Like she's not gonna hurt her friends. She's taking out on the dudes who deserve it. Like she's evil in the way that she's like. Okay, correct. You got me in my own.
Yeah, I
trap.
did.
She's not evil because like it's like yeah, it's not like she's gonna open up an island where she's like raping everybody. But like
That's not what
she's
we're
like
talking
evil
about.
in like the way where like the predator becomes the prey now, or like the prey becomes the predator.
That's
now,
not what I've suggested. I've suggested that she leave her friend to die in order to save this guy.
Yeah, well, I'm
to take
saying
over.
that part doesn't even matter because that didn't happen. What actually happened is she said goodbye to her friend.
What actually
Then
happened
she
in
went,
this? What actually happened in this fictional movie?
Well, Zoe Kravitz sat there while the fucking Channing Tatum danced on a pole behind her, and she typed on her computer is what actually happened. But
All right.
that's beside the point.
Let's get into our game here on Bedlam Movie Night. We do a twist on Fuck, Marry, Kill, where we do fight, friend, or spare. My fight would be Cody, the chef. Like, I found him to be
Obnoxious.
obnoxious, and he like the constant like, "Hey babe" stuff when he was like trying
He
to
had
approach
the
Sarah,
coolest
and
chick,
she
yeah.
would like shut him down, like, "Don't call me that, fuck
Over
off."
and over.
But he continued to do it over and over again. I was annoyed with him as an audience.
I mean,
member.
all those guys.
And his like bullshit,
worth
like
fighting, yeah.
this is a foam of peach.
He never.
with the
He was the cook,
glazed,
but he never
whatever.
cooked. He just described what
Yeah.
the chefs made.
Probably.
He was like, I'm the chef here, and he's like, here's what we're eating. He never actually picked up a knife or anything. It was, yeah.
We don't
he's a
know that
little bit-
either.
What?
We don't know that either.
No, that one's a fact. I watched the whole thing. Yeah, that one actually happens instead of your crazy muck. Anyway, who's
Okay.
gonna friend?
So
up?
I would friend Jess. She was the
Right.
coolest of all of them. She kind of saw through the bullshit before anybody, not just because of the Venom thing, but
and the
she's
blue
just
dress. Yeah,
she just kind of like, a no nonsense.
she was taking care of her, paying her rent, getting her toilet paper, making
Yeah,
sure.
right. Not only, I mean,
Yeah.
I do like the actress that played Jess, but the character was just solid. I feel like
Totally.
that's kind of what Alia Shawkat plays a lot of the time, just kind of like a no bullshit.
They're always like the most like relatable, but
Yeah.
down to earth character.
So I would spare Stacy, Gina Davis' character,
Fascinating.
just because she, like you described, like she was the enabler, but also a victim, and she was brainwashed for way longer than any of these
Right.
characters.
And she's like,
Like that's the
given
state
up,
that
yeah.
she lives in.
It's
and
like a
it-
different version of suicide, just
Almost, yeah.
It's like just addiction essentially, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Really
God,
sad stuff.
brutal, yeah.
All right.
That's a good spare. That really got to me right there. Yeah. Oof.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me think for a minute then. Yeah, so I would fight, and actually we didn't talk about him, but Kyle MacLachlan.
Kyle MacLachlan. Well, that
MacLachlan?
actually, it's funny that you bring him up because he was a frequent collaborator with David Lynch. So when he showed up in the
Right,
film,
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, he was the worst, but I mean, I would maybe fight him. And
He's a therapist or some shit in the film.
and he's just the dumb. But honestly, I would fight the like military guy, the guy like the police force that's there.
the
Essentially.
ex-Marine / bodyguard.
Yeah, well, because you can tell all these guys are like fucking worthless, like the Sixth Sense guy. And so these women are going to get the best of them constantly, such as like biting off the pinky of Slater.
Right.
And like the Marine guy's the guy that just rolls in and he's like beats the shit and has the chain and gun. Like, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
And also, our girl Sarah beats the shit out of him because she's, in the reality show. And
Yep.
That's badass. And yeah, so I'd fight him. And I'm really, really having a hard time deciding if I want to be friends with Sarah or the blunt rolling girl. So I'll put it at
The
this.
amount of weed that you smoke, I feel like
Me and
it's a
the-
given.
Yeah, me and the blunt rolling girl would be the death of each
It's
other.
not just a blunt rolling; it's fat blunt.
Yeah,
Isn't that
yeah.
what they scream to get Frida's attention?
Yeah,
when
exactly.
she's
Yeah, and I
fat
mean,
blunt?
she's like, yeah. So I think I would be friends with Sarah, and then I would spare blunt girl.
Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah, she
Fair
gets
enough.
shot and it's sad. Yeah.
Favorite moment of the film for me was the what the fuck moment between Sarah and Frida when they realize what they're in,
Turns into a
what they're
stoner
really
comedy, yeah.
involved with now, but also the fat blunt moment when Sarah's
was good
trying to
shit.
get her attention and just screaming it really like awkwardly, and
I'm just really excited for this fat blunt, and then yeah, that
nobody
worked
like
out. Me
like,
too.
everybody's kind of like, okay, cool, like
Shout out to that guy though. Did you ever see a Red Rocket?
no.
With that actor. Oh, really, really good movie with the same director that did Tangerine. Just phenomenal. And Florida Project. Check it out.
Great stuff.
But yeah, he was great. He just goes, I'm excited too.
Yeah, right. He's like, nothing weird about this. Nothing weird about how you're saying this and
Right.
screaming in my face. It's
No,
fine.
she was great. She's in True Detective season 2 as well.
Yeah.
And she's like dating the douchey guy.
I'm still
and,
trying to figure out what happened in season 2 of True Detective, but that's just me.
Nothing. I mean, Colin Farrell showed that he can literally carry a terrible script just with his
Just his own.
Colin
yeah.
Farrellness, but we digress. So yeah, my favorite moment was when they were like, "Oh my God, when blah 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 comes up on the Venom, it's gonna be a shit show." And then when she's like, "If anyone fucks with you, I'll
yeah.
fucking kill all you," and then
I was like, any moment.
yeah, and then she comes up on it, and then they just go crazy, and then it's just revenge, and then they
It's
go
mayhem.
ham.
Yeah, I loved it.
And the only like disappointing parts are like a couple of the girls we like get
She's chasing him around just like he chased her around in the
Exactly.
reveal scene.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really good shit. Well, I think that about does it for us here on Bedlam Movie Night. I know that I enjoyed this film. I don't think I can say the same for Ben, but
I mean, I will. I'll definitely check out her next film, and I'll be super excited about it. But in the meantime, she can definitely pull her head out of her ass a little bit.
well, I hope you join us again next time, folks. And as always, to be continued.
And keep your eyes on the skis.